Welcome to Invest Soup. Mark McMahon here, and I'm with my good friend Drew D'Angelo. We've known each other for quite a while. He is a real estate agent, an investor, a developer. He's what I want to be when I grow up because he's doing the kind of projects I've always wanted to do. I always do these little houses. I've done a few big ones, but I always do these little houses. And every time I see Drew, he's doing these mega mansions and they're $6 million. And he's saying, yeah, I think I can get 6.2. And I'm going, nah, I don't see that. Maybe four. And then they get 6.2 and it blows me away. But anyway, Drew, thanks for being here today. So honored to have you here. And I think the first time I met you was at an open house, probably, I'm going to say 8 to 10 years ago over in Dover Shores.
Yep.
And you were on some TV show. What TV show was that?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I love you. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Entirely too complimentary of me. But yeah, it was Dover Shores. The TV show I was on was Bravo's Real Estate Wars.
Right.
And we were right in the midst of filming that show and getting ready to launch.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny because, and I want to go into your background and everything too, but this was just my first experience with you. And Yuko and I walked in and you were and I didn't know you were going to be there. I didn't know it was your house. I mean, we were just looking at open houses. We were looking for, I can't remember what we were looking for at the time, but I saw you and I recognized you and you were so gracious and so nice. And I was a bit starstruck because I was just, well, I mean, keep in mind back then, I wasn't world famous like I am today, you know. But no, it was really cool, and you took the time to answer our questions, and it was really kind of cool to see that and to experience that. So I appreciated that. But let's give us a little background on yourself. I mean, I know about your mom and dad, and I know what you do now, but what brought you to where you're at, and why are you so successful at it?
Well, I first thing is I don't think I'm successful. So I think that's a driving motivator for me is that, I'm always a constant. I always have these talks with my performance coach and my mentors in my life. I have four really, really good mentors in my mentor group. And it's always this imposter syndrome where I never feel like I'm good enough. And I never feel like, did I just really, did we? It's never I. I mean,
yeah.
I can take the success, I guess, and be like, oh, it's all me. It's not. I have a great team. But I think it's just the humility of knowing, like, yes, you're doing good things, but also the humility and gratitude of, like, you didn't get here by yourself. You got here through relationships. You got here by this. And so, that's with the successful part. And it looks like you're successful, right? And you have a good life, and that's important. And success is defined in so many different ways. But my background is I have 23 years of being in the real estate game, if you will. I started off as a assistant for my dad. He was a developer, and my first project was an 1,100 acre subdivision in Trabuco Canyon
Holy smokes.
And so that was my first project that I got into.
What year was that?
That was 2000. So
good time. Yeah.
And so with that came what was called the Ambassador Campus up in Pasadena, where we were purchasing a piece of property. And my dad kind of threw me in the mix, and he said, if you want to do what I do, basically just shut up, take notes, ask questions, and learn. And so I worked my way up the chain of command within my dad's company, and learned how to do spreadsheets. I dropped out of college. I wasn't I wasn't very good at school. So spreadsheets on the computer. I learned Excel by trial and error. I learned Word documents by trial and error. I learned Gantt charts by trial and error. And my dad let me do that because he knew that the only experience, and I don't know that he planned this, but I think for him it was go out and do it. right? And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that he thought that I was going to have the stamina, because I wasn't at that point in my life a very consistent person. I wasn't, I was
Let, let,
consistent.
let, let- well, let's go into that for just 1 second, and
Yeah,
then I want to continue
sure.
because I think I think one of the biggest struggles real estate agents, I think one of the biggest struggles anybody has is consistency and
Right.
being able to do things and do it long enough to where you can actually succeed at it. I think we've all got a lot of things in our rearview mirror that we've tried and failed at, but in reality, it wasn't a failure, it was a learning experience. We all know that now.
Yeah.
But I think that's so important what you just said because most people need to hear that.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I think I my follow through is still atrocious. I
Yeah.
mean, and I fully embrace that. I
Yeah.
accept it. I know that's me.
Right.
I've tried to fix it, but the only way to fix it is to have people like Justin and Yuko U and Sauce the Boss and all these other people around me that are better at the things that I can't do. And
Yes.
I just love the fact that you brought that up because I think that is everybody's biggest issue. I
Yeah.
really, truly do.
Yeah. So, getting back to that, it was, wanting to prove myself wrong, but prove him wrong, excuse me, but also prove to myself that I could do it. I mean, when I got into the business, even though I was passionate about it, I wasn't passionate about the work. I was passionate about
Mm-hmm.
the lifestyle. I was
Mm-hmm.
passionate about what that could get me based upon what I had experienced, and seeing my dad, basically build up and then fall down and build up and
Mm-hmm.
fall down. And each
Mm-hmm.
time it came back better. I mean, my childhood wasn't this like I was a rich developer son. It was my dad taught me how to work hard. My dad taught me how to, this is my stepfather, mind you, my dad taught me
Mm-hmm.
how to pick yourself back up, reinvent yourself, but stay consistent in that space. And eventually you're going to have some wins, but
Mm-hmm.
take the L's, learn from them, be grateful for that lesson, and go out and do it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, with the Ambassador campus in Pasadena, we double escrowed it to CT Realty, which was a company out here. We bought it from Sars Regis, who was a big company. Um, and it was a massive apartment deal. So I had the multifamily experience. I was entitling. I didn't even know what CEQA meant, which is the California Environmental Quality Act.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad handed me a specific plan, which is a document in planning that
Mm-hmm.
goes with a general plan, and he made me read it. And read it meaning like, hey, just read the whole thing front to back and ask questions. Now he gave me two binders. He gave me brand new pens because my dad was a trained architect as well. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, write your questions. And so I spent the first 4 years of my career going to meetings and learning how the cadence of how the development game goes, and learning the mannerisms of how to read people, and learning what politicians really want, learning the give and take of land entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
And then we break into construction. And then, we're 2004, 2005, and we start breaking into other marketplaces like, San Diego. And we start breaking into nationals such as, Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a great marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we start entitling, we start putting our family money out there, we start going it. So I got NEPA experience, which is the National Environmental Protection Act. And then I had CEQA experience. So I was really getting my handle on this whole entitlement game on a national level.
Mm-hmm.
How the flora, the fauna, the documents, the procedure for CEQA, the timelines associated with it, dealing with all of the agencies. And
Yeah,
then,
but let me ask you something. I'm going to break in here.
sure.
So, was that something that you would have been able to do a couple of years before that? Did you have the wherewithal inside your brain to be able to handle that kind of stuff, or is that something that you evolved into?
It was an evolution for
Okay.
sure. I mean, I
Okay.
was, when I came to work for my dad, I was still teaching tennis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Playing amateur pro, right? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
could call me a pro, but I was teaching tennis. That was my career. That's what was paying the bills. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was highlighting as a club promoter, right?
Okay.
So it was 9 to 5, 5 to 9, 9 to 2 o'clock in the morning, right? And that was my grind so that I could make, $5,000, $6,000 a month at that time,
Mm-hmm.
which for
Mm-hmm.
me, being that age, was like, okay, I can pay my bills. I wasn't sober then, so I could pay for my alcohol. I could,
Yep.
pay for my food and not have to ask mom and dad for it. And I was working, right?
Yeah.
But I was still this really immature 20-something-year-old coming up in the game, having these aspirations of like, I want to be a rich developer. And it wasn't until 2008 when we lost everything that
Mm-hmm.
it seemed like literally it was one of those epiphanies where when you have to go out and fend for yourself truly, that all the education that you have really comes in, and it's this sort of calm that came about me of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I actually do know what I'm talking about. Oh, I actually do know how to do this. Oh, I actually do know how to write a business plan. Oh, I actually do know how to run numbers, and I'm pretty darn good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But during the process prior to, I had no idea, and it was just
Well,
like,
you said something earlier about imposter syndrome,
yeah,
and that I think all of us that have had any success, we're always worried someone's going to pull back the veil and see, oh God, oh yeah, he really doesn't know what he's talking about, even though we know we do, but
yeah,
we still think that someone's going to go, oh, Mark, I know, I saw you, I know, no, that's wrong.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a tough one. I think that's a very tough one, especially for like new agents, because they don't know, they really generally don't know what they're talking about, or a new investor or developer or whatever.
No, no, and I mean, in that kind of evolution, as we start to get to how I became an agent, it was also one of those things too where I realized that it's okay not to have all the answers, right? When you're coming up prior to, you have these massive consultant teams. I mean, we had teams where we would sit in a company called the Planning Center, and we would have CDFG, which is California Department of Fish and Game. We would
Mm-hmm.
have Fish and Wildlife Services there. We would have Army Corps of Engineers there. We would have our planner, our engineer, our architect, our designer, and then legal. And so you have all these great minds in a room, and you don't have to know everything because you ask
Mm-hmm.
questions and they give it. And so being trained in that capacity, it was always like, don't be afraid to ask questions, but don't be afraid to say, I really don't have the answer to that. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
okay not to have the answer as long as you have the willingness to seek the answer. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was always a guy that really sought answers versus saying, oh, I know everything. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2008 comes. We all know what happened there.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh yeah.
this is where running numbers, my son was born, I got sober. That really helped my mind clarity of
Mm-hmm.
just being like, okay, I don't want to do drugs anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want that lifestyle anymore because it's it could kill my son, it could kill me, and I don't want my son to see that guy, who that guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically just made a decision to turn uh, my life, over to the God as I understood him. And I made
Mm-hmm.
a decision to get sober and stay sober to this day. And I made a
Mm-hmm.
decision to turn my life around in the form of I was going to every day try to be 1% better. That was it. Just 1%, right? If I didn't do it right the other day, I would, hopefully pray that I would have another opportunity to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
wrote a business plan through fortuitous events of being sober in that network. I met, an heiress to a billionaire family and ran their private equity fund for them from 2008 to 2009, actually to 2012, 13, and then filtered out of that. And in between that time, met my beautiful wife, and went off on that amazing journey, and just started to realize like, hey, this is something I want to do. And I found that in that process, this is where the agency comes in. And in between that time, I had kind of odd jobs. Like I was working for a modification company. So I learned how money was lent and how lenders were looking at
Mm-hmm.
loans. And, oh, this is why we may have gotten not approved for that construction loan, or
Mm-hmm.
this is how you reformat a loan. And then that company, ended up going out of business like a lot of them did. And I
Mm-hmm.
started my own company and I finished all of my files. So, I'm that guy in that space that actually did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and paid bills for that. And so then it was when I'm selling these properties or I'm hiring agents to sell the properties that I was buying with the foreclosure fund, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that at that time, it was a really weird time in real estate from like 2009 to 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really find a lot of agents that were like out for your best interest. It was more like, how am I going to get back what was taken from me or lost? And so they were really thirsty is the way that I'm going to say it. And so I just realized like I don't want to be that, right? And so I became an agent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my wife helped me study. I had failed the test 4 times because I thought that I knew everything because I'm a developer. I ran a private equity fund and I did well. And what do these guys know that I don't know? And I just got my ass handed to me the first couple of years because it was this constant education. Because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the documents, I didn't bother to study, I didn't bother to put in the work, and so that brings me back to what are your goals, right? What did you want to do when you started off in this venture in the real estate game? And that was not to be the best, but to be respected and be a good person, but also be consistent. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when consistency really came in is like, okay, I have to be consistent at my craft. I have to really seek answers. I have to really go back to the basics. And so I did. And then it was
Well, so
this.
what were the basics for you? What were the basics for you? Because a lot of people that's going to be a big takeaway for them.
Yeah, so the basics for me were I really started to lean into education of documents. Right, the brokerage that I was with was Berkshire Hathaway, was First
Okay.
Prudential, and then Berkshire Hathaway, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like get smart on the documents, understand the legal ease that's actually in the documents, and the implementation of what they mean when you're in contract. Right,
Mm-hmm.
understand the variables that could happen, and then go out and apply, right? That was one basic, which was study, really study
Okay.
your craft. The other basic
Mm-hmm.
was market yourself. Learn how to market yourself, not, Johnny B over here, who's an agent who you want to be like. Like, don't do what he's doing. Find who you are. Be okay
Mm-hmm.
with who you are as yourself and market that because I found a lot, and this, in our area that genuineness is not often found, and the
Mm.
people that are
Agreed.
very very genuine in their approach and what they do, and they're just who they are, do very well. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but it's not a process where you're like, okay, I'm going to be this. You have to learn through making mistakes. I think um, that who you really are in this business, and
Isn't
so
it funny? Don't you find it hilarious that it's harder for us to be ourselves than anything else? It's when you try to be yourself, because we've been taught you have to do certain things to
sure,
project yourself out there so people will listen to you, and you don't think people are going to listen to Mark or Drew,
yeah,
and when you actually start being yourself, you actually start succeeding more.
yeah.
That's a great thing. Most people don't realize that they think that they have to act. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, and it only furthers you down this hole of like imposter syndrome, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
like you get
Mm-hmm.
to it and you're like, okay, God, I just closed a deal, but I don't really feel good about it. Like
Mm.
I wasn't really myself, and so with that, one of the basics was just going through the motions of trying to find yourself and being okay with the moment. Like it's okay to know that you don't have to get it immediately. You're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be an agent that gets your license and automatically starts to make 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and so on, $1,000 a year. It
Mm-hmm.
takes work. And,
Mm-hmm.
and the other basic was I realized is that, you know, with being a developer, you get fees, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you have fees coming in and you know what kind of your workload is and your scope of work. With an agent and in real estate, in general real estate sales, if you don't work, you don't get paid. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the basics was if you put in the work, you're going to get compensated. And so
Mm-hmm.
that really was like where it all again came together, and it just my vision got more and more clear, and my world got larger, so to speak, my perspective.
Did you start off as doing high end, or did you start off doing
I was
regular stuff? or
No,
where
I
were
was
you?
I was I was fortunate because I was always dealing with, because of the sales that I had hired agents with,
Hmm.
and because I was known as a developer before, I had the opportunity to kind of go into these marketplaces. But also my team lead, who was John McMonagle at the time,
Hmm.
was huge in that space, and
Hmm.
so he kind of took me under his wing and put me on listings. And so I think my first sale was like 2.7 million. I was very fortunate to be in that space, right?
Hmm.
But had I been a new agent, I wouldn't have gotten hired. I knew Scott McDonald, who
Right.
was the broker of record, um,
Hmm.
not the broker of record, excuse me, the like regional vice president for Berkshire Hathaway. And Scott had interviewed me while I was doing private equity. And he said,
Hmm.
if you decide to get your license, you're coming aboard. And so he brought me on. And, I was very fortunate to kind of break into that space. And then it was like, I sold a home. I didn't know how to market. So it was like, okay, how do we market? Right. And this is where I learned, like, okay, you got to be yourself. I can't be John, right? Because
Hmm.
John is John. I don't want to be like him,
Hmm.
because I want to be me. But he's
Hmm.
got some good qualities that maybe I could use and kind of morph and put into here. And then that didn't work. And then it was sold my parents' house, right? And while I'm selling my parents' house, I get my BMW X5 repoed in front of my parents' house in the showing, right?
I'm laughing because I love you.
Yeah,
That's because a similar situation, 2009 for me.
I
So
love you too. But
yeah.
I mean, that was kind of that. And I didn't tell my wife, and my wife was like, what happened, right? And so, that's when it really came together, where it was like, I don't ever want to feel that way again.
Mm, mm,
Ever,
mm,
ever, ever.
mm, mm. We
I
have
don't,
that in common, sir.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
ever want to
Yeah.
be in that place where I couldn't pay rent, couldn't pay my car payment, right? I was barely making ends meet. And so what did that require from me? Back to consistency. Were
Yeah.
you being consistent? The answer to that was, I was consistently hustling, but was I consistent in doing the right things?
Yeah.
Did I know what the right things were?
Yeah.
So I just said, screw it. I'm going to do the right stuff. So I started doing the right stuff in real estate. I started hosting open houses. I started making calls. I started really believing, first and foremost, that I could be a top agent. I started really believing that I would be at there again, at the top again.
Hmm.
And with the underlying current of, I don't ever want to be on the verge of being evicted from a house that I bought for my group, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and being looked at in that way, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, and then, about 2014, 2015, a development deal came my way in San Diego. A developer called me. I had purchased the deal with my dad, and syndicated the investment. It was a small investment. We were optioning the property, and we had an entitlement.
Hmm.
We brought in an investment group. I brought in my people that were there. We got the deal done. That changed a lot of stuff because that gave me steady income while I continued to evolve. Um,
Hmm.
and I met my one of my partners, Greg Lamarca of Alliance Development, who became our GC partner and funding partner for, I don't know, 200 units that we did in San Diego from 2015 to today. And
Hmm.
so, it just kind of took off. And then in between that time, it was the TV show, and it was continuing to build. And then it was getting an opportunity to sell in Newport Coast. And then it was Dover Shores. And then it was meeting people. And it was like, once I started to believe that I could do this, all of these opportunities, like, started to, like, I was a magnet. They started coming my way. And I was able to, because of my experience, because of my humility, but above all else, I think it was my gratitude. I was
Hmm.
able to portray this genuine, or excuse me, not portray. I was able to give this genuine version of myself that, like, look, I have your best interest at heart before mine, and
Hmm.
I've never looked back, man. And then
So, so it was, so it was one of those things it's confidence too, right? I think,
it is.
that has something to do with it too. But when you realize that you could be yourself, and still succeed at this as long as you work your ass off, right? I mean,
Right.
I think a lot of people don't talk enough about working your ass off, and
Right.
that's something that's needs to be spoken about a little bit more because most people don't do that. Most
Right.
people get into this game and they go, you know what? I got my first listing because it was my mom and dad, right? For me, it
100%.
was a couple of things. First two deals were two family friends for me, and it
Yep.
was like, shit, this is easy. I could do this all day.
Yep.
You know, I just find
Yes.
two people, they want to buy houses, we find them, and then I got a listing, and then nothing. I got nothing for the longest time. And that's when I started investing. So,
Yes.
you know, real estate agents that can't invest, right?
Yep.
But that was kind of the same thing. But I finally realized that, and it's still an evolution for me. I know we're talking about you, but it's still an evolution for me.
Same with me, man.
That I still sometimes I'll be in a meeting and I'll go, I really don't know what I'm talking about here, but I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to go with it. And people are good about that, man. They're good about helping you along if you've got that attitude where you want to be helped. But if you think you know everything and people can read that, if their BS meter goes off, it's not going to go anywhere. So yeah,
No.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think most agents deal with that. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and
Yeah.
so with that, it was just like literally one day at a time, one deal at a time, but putting the
Mm-hmm.
relationship first. You know, it was always a matter of, because I had spent my own money, invested my own money, I had, you know, lost a tremendous amount, not for foolish decisions, but because acts of God with respect to
Mm-hmm.
the economy. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to ever feel that way. A, I don't want my people to ever feel that way because there's no longevity in it. The
Mm-hmm.
experiences that I had in development and seeing what, you know, billionaire developers who are our partners and $1 billion companies who are our partners, how they operate and what their mantra was and how they look at things and how they look at the world and the business and in general, it really taught me a lot about who I wanted to grow up to become, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't have the opportunity after the market crash to kind of walk into that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that if I kept working and I kept my nose down and I kept just doing the best that I could for the benefit of my clients, that eventually opportunities would come, and they did. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the TV show came, and the TV show didn't really do anything for me. It really didn't. It was
They
like,
don't. Yeah.
yeah, my
Yeah.
colleagues
I've
knew
heard.
who I was prior to, they knew who I was there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more just credibility because we were vetted so much, right? So that helped
Mm-hmm.
with the imposter syndrome because, you know, the TV show executives and producers want to make sure that, hey, if you say you did this, you really did. And so I was vetted and it's real, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this a long time and yeah, I've done a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
Not me personally, but as part of a team, as part of a group. And you know, these are our accomplishments, not my accomplishment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was very fortunate to meet at the house that you came into in Dover
Mm-hmm.
Shores. I was able to meet my now partner, Robert, um, and we just started this relationship. And he was with an agent.
Are you saying it could have been me instead of him?
It could have been you.
Is that what you're saying right now? My gosh.
Had we just talked more.
Boom. I know. We could have
Yeah.
made that left turn. I know.
Yes.
I know.
So,
That's awesome.
but it didn't start off that way. So investing in relationships. So it's important that I talk
Mm-hmm.
about that because that's what I'm all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would rather make a little bit of something than a whole lot of nothing.
Mm.
And that is just really my mantra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that I have to give up commission so that you feel that I have skin in the game and I'm aligned with you. Fine. As long as we ride the upside together, we'll ride the downside together.
Mm-hmm.
Most agents don't do that. A lot of agents are like, I'm not going to give you a dime. I did all the work. I searched the MLS and, you know, that's my work. And I showed you the property. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to give anything up and you're going to miss out on this opportunity because you, Mr. Buyer, didn't come up $5,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to be the antithesis of that and do
Mm-hmm.
what I could to invest, right? Partly because at the time I really didn't need the money. It was more of a happenstance of I wanted longevity. I wanted my career to look back on and say, okay, I have a legacy in this space. right?
Mm-hmm.
This is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is who I want my kids to remember me as. Dad did this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met my partner, and he had this huge portfolio. He was having problems sorting it out. They had bought rights. They had done all these things, but they were having problems with construction management. They were having problems with sales because agents weren't really pricing it right.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up setting a record for the highest price per square foot for non-view ever in Dover Shores at that time. It had never broken 1,000 foot except on the harbor, which now 1,000 foot
Mm-hmm.
is for dirt, right? 1,000 a foot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
my
then
neighborhood.
and leveraged that into their listing. They had fired a group that was doing the auction platform, and that didn't work out
Mm-hmm.
well for them. And so I
Mm-hmm.
came in and I took over, and we had 2 offers, and it ended up working out. But then they had this portfolio, and they were interviewing other agents, like big agents, you guys that you and I both know and respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I said,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I'll do if you give me your whole portfolio, I'll do it for 1.25%. I said, not only that, what I'll do is I will give you my design experience. I will give
Mm-hmm.
you my development experience and project management experience, and I will turn your projects around. And I did. So I came in and I redesigned projects. I managed the entire team and basically put forth my whole education
Mm-hmm.
in that, and got projects done on time and on budget and sold them for records. And then continued to do that, for a few years. And then one day, that partnership, which was the then partnership, it was 2 partners, they decided to
Mm-hmm.
go into the multifamily space. And I was representing a developer, a local developer. I won't name names because it's one of those things where I just don't want to.
Well, we
And
also live in a small. We also live in a very small town.
yeah, and I don't like to speak ill of people, right? Unless
Of
you
course not.
purposely wrong my friends or my family, we'll have words privately, but I'm not going to put you on blast.
Yeah.
So he basically, had said, no, I'm not going to pay you this amount of money. Now, mind you, I had found him an off-market deal for $2.3 million. I had designed the property myself, okay,
Mm-hmm.
given it to the architect, and the architect had taken it. I had looked at the materials and said, this is the route that you want to go. From
Mm-hmm.
a design aesthetic standpoint, I had given that to him. And basically, I had sold it at Freeman for almost $6 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he was
Mm-hmm.
4.2 in, 4.225 in.
Mm-hmm.
So mind you, COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it was like, hey, instead of 1.25, how about 1.5? Because I've done this. 2.25%, right? And this is me
Mm-hmm.
asking for it. And so he says no. So I tell my now partner this, and he goes, you're never, ever going to work like that again. He goes, what do you really want to do? And I said, well, I want to do what these guys, I'm sick of these guys that I'm representing, making all the money and thinking that I'm not doing anything when they're not doing a whole lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me because I should be doing what they're doing. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the means at this moment in time to spend millions and millions of dollars, like they are.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, well, let's do this. How much you got? Told him. It's like, all right, well, this is what we can do. And so we worked it out. We bought a deal. We bought another deal. We bought another deal. We bought another deal. We were successful in all of those. And I created a company well before the partnership had split, but I was the strategic advisor for the company. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
look, we created this company for a specific reason. Came up with the name,
Mm-hmm.
came up with the colors, came up with the logo, had my guys do the whole, website, blah, blah, blah. Let's revamp it. I'm going to go at the helm. This is going to be our company. And we started our Sky Sail venture. And now we're starting to become a name in the community.
How many years? How many years ago was that?
3.
Or how many months?
3. No,
Yeah.
not 3 months. 3 years.
No,
So
I
it
know.
was
I know.
three
Yeah.
3 years of building and continuing
Mm-hmm.
to do it and continuing to make money. And in between that time, he started a company called ARC
Mm-hmm.
Multifamily, which is a very large, I would say mid-sized to large investment firm that owns 1,500 apartments in the Southeast. I became an investor in that. I raised capital for that company. And so I have diversified income and I'm part of the general partnership. And so I have that, my agency, and now my development company. And, these things that I always had said that I wanted, when I write them into this book, which is always right here,
Mm-hmm.
of like what my dreams are and what my missions are, and kind of where I want to be when I grow up, those things are all here today.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have happened without the initial, I'll do it for 1.25%,
Let
you
me
know?
ask you a question. So I'm not sure what you sounded like 10 years ago because I didn't know you then. But when I listen to you now, you have the most humble confidence of, I know a lot of people, right? But you're one of the most humbly confident people that I know.
Thank you.
And when you tell me things, it's so believable to me. Every time Yuko and I meet with you, or we get together and talk or whatever, the couple of times that Yuko's been with me, she's like, I want to do a deal with him. It's like,
Let's go,
what if he doesn't?
bro.
What if he? What? And I said, what are you basing on that? And she goes, he knows what he's talking about. And it's
Yep.
like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's how I would describe you. Uh, Not as a friend. I mean, that's a different level, but
Yeah.
that's the way I would describe you, though, as very humbly confident, and that just exudes
Thank you.
more confidence. It really does. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm saying this for a reason because number one, it's true, but number two, I think people need to realize that they need to have that confidence and they need to be humble at the same time. And if you can master that skill, which you've done because it's natural for you, because it's real, but if you can master that skill as an agent, as an investor, as a developer, which is who we're talking to here, the sky is the limit. It really, truly is. And then you actually put that book in there with the work ethic and you'll slay dragons. But
Yeah.
you have to have that.
A
Yeah.
100%, man. And thank you for being so, kind with your words. It's also just
It's easy.
experience too. I
The
mean,
other's that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. You have to be experienced to have confidence in what you do. I mean, 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, was I this guy in a different space in entitlement and, development? Sure. Was I as complete, and I'm constantly evolving and constantly learning today. I mean, my biggest challenge today is what am I going to learn today? Right? How am I going
Mm-hmm.
to kind of bring in something that I didn't know? Is it going to come from my kids? Is it going to come from my environment? Is it going to come from surfing and, seeing something? I mean, you never know something. I'm always seeking that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it. But I think too, if you're experienced, people with experience, all of us, yourself, as you stated to me, I state to you, it's the same. You just have been there and done that. And
Mm-hmm.
so really nothing rocks you. And if you're old enough to have gone through what you and I both experienced in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
you don't come out of that with a battle scar. You come out that with almost a trophy of like, I made it through and I'm here today, alive, kicking, and doing really well.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it was because I was humble enough and grateful enough to look at those lessons and continue to be consistent. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
being a
Agreed.
fiduciary too, both in the managing of other people's capital, the deploitation of capital, and also being a fiduciary in the form of agency, which is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want this up and down person. They don't want this highly emotional person. They want this person that's going to speak from experience and this person that's going to be a steady hand. You
Yeah.
know, um, I have a lot of doctor clients, and there are select surgeons that make a ton of money. And if a surgeon doesn't have a steady hand, they're not a very good surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to do is we have to go in and sometimes either surgically repair, surgically alter a deal, or go in and have an operation and a full, extraction of something and analyze this and give people confidence, backing it up with knowledge, which is the comps, which is, in
Mm-hmm.
the form of managing money. Here are the comps. Here's what your return looks like. Here's what an IRR calculation looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what these things that you need to know look like so that you know that I'm doing the best that I can.
Well, I think we've all dealt with colleagues in the real estate sector that lose their shit on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and it's one of the most awful things to go through is dealing with someone else when you're doing a deal and you've got another agent that's emotionally insecure and flies off the handle, and it's awful. It's awful. And I, often wonder what their clients must go through when they deal with that. So yeah, great advice. Be steady and
Even
be
if you're a
confident.
mess, yeah, man. I mean, even if you're a
Yeah.
mess inside, like, don't show that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there are other outlets that you could do it. Just bite the
Yeah.
bullet. Pause if you're angry. Pause from pen and tongue, and just don't do what you initially want to do. Do the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
And that served me well in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. How many texts and emails have you written knowing that you weren't going to send them just to get it off your chest, and then you erase it and then you rewrite it the way the way it should be done? I've done that dozens and dozens of times where I'll react if someone does something so silly, and I'll go, I know I'm not going to send this, but I've got to get this off my chest, and then I erase it, then I write it after thinking about it for a while.
Yeah, probably hundreds of times, man. I mean, honestly, hundreds of times, because I realized that my reaction to them is I'm letting them win, A, and B, I'm now bringing my ego into it.
Mm-hmm.
And my ego has never served me well, right? Which is
Yeah.
why I'm so humble, because it's just always led me down the path of destruction versus the path of consistency to the path of redemption, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever want to have my ego get in the way of, my client's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Or mine.
Really serious question.
Yes.
And I hope you can answer it. You dress really well. And I'm just curious, is that something that's a lifelong thing, or is that something that came about as you became, and I'm tongue in cheek. I'm kind of saying that as a joke, but I'm really curious because, every time I see you, it's like, damn, he's dressed on Saturday in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, but he looks good. What the hell? I mean, is that, well, tell me. I just need to know.
First of all, yeah, I'll be completely vulnerable with you because you're my brother.
Yes, please.
So in high school, I was overweight, right?
Okay.
Not fat, but overweight. I was 4'11" when I graduated high school. I didn't have a hair on my leg, and I was always attractive, but just not in shape. And so when I graduated high school that summer, I quote unquote blossomed, and I really started to put forth. And I always had style, right? But my style kind of evolved because I'm a lifelong surfer. From like that surfer style, right, with hang 10 shirts and shorts that match in Vans or simple shoes, to like what we're wearing now, right? I'm a proponent of white t-shirts, jeans, cool shoes. That's all you need, right?
Damn, that's why we get along so well.
I mean, there's nothing better than a crisp white tee that fits well, nice pair of blue jeans, and a nice pair of white sneakers.
What's your white t-shirt of choice right now? I'm wearing Good Life. I like them. They just closed down their store in Lido Village.
But, that's a person. So I have two. Yeah. So I have All Saints, which is a great thick collar white tee because I like the old school kind of military look, and then Club Monaco makes a really, really good t-shirt.
Okay.
So those are my two kind of go-to t-shirts.
Okay, cool.
So then, I got in shape. I dropped all my weight. I grew and continued.
Were you playing tennis at this time? Or
I did.
Obviously, you had to have been.
I played varsity tennis. I went to college for tennis. And then, I grew. And I kind of blossomed. And puberty hit. And it was a really good time in my life. And so from 17 to 18, outside of high school to 18, I really started to experiment with fashion in the form of like, now that I look good, I feel more confident in doing this. And so I basically just started kind of putting outfits together and exploring a little bit of style and taking things that I really liked from the surf world and taking it from the high fashion world and melding the two. And then it just kind of evolved. It was just one of those things where I really cared about how I presented myself, about how I looked, how I smelled, how it was groomed, and that boded well. I mean, that was for selfish reasons, obviously, because I wanted to date, a lot of women.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was getting positive reinforcement, and that just helped continue to make it even more and more.
So do you and your wife compete when you guys go out? Because does she tell you just, hey, that's a little bit much?
She does.
I'm dressed like this. I need you to dress down a little bit.
Well, to your point, so she'll be like, we'll go to date night, right? And she'll be casual. Like my wife's favorite outfit is her gym clothes, and she looks phenomenal in those.
Yeah, she's very cute. She's very cute. Yeah.
As you, I love and adore my wife. That's my best friend on the planet. My ride or die till I die.
Yep.
But I'll get dressed in something casual or what I think is casual, and it will be
right.
She's like, that's just too much. And she doesn't make me change, but she's like, we don't match.
Yeah. I
get
that.
And I don't change, right? Now, mind you, I'll throw on a flannel shirt under my white t-shirt with my jeans and a sneaker, and I'll throw on, a cool hat. I'll change my frames so that it coordinates and this and that. But there's something to her that makes it look different. I just try to always, in fashion and in style, I always try to be me, right?
Yeah.
I found my style, what I like, what works for me. And if you're confident wearing something, right, which I think is what you're saying, like if I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, I feel good wearing that. And so that exudes to somebody else like, hey, somebody, they're confident in that. Now, I'm not going to come in with a leotard on and feel confident and be, here's what's going on.
I'd prefer you didn't do that.
Right?
Yeah, so, pretty much.
But the point is like there are limits, right, of confidence. Some people have this false confidence where they're wearing things they shouldn't wear.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes.
It's just I find out what worked for me, what looks good on me, and then I, am looking in GQ to what are the styles coming in. I'm looking at Esquire to see kind of what's going on. I have an exercise where I'm at the mall. I don't shop a lot. When I do, it's I'll buy like what I need and go from there. Mm-hmm. But I'll look at the mannequins and I'll look like, okay, this is where kind of style is trending towards. I like this, I like that. That's probably a good fit. You just go from there, man. I mean, it's something I really like, which is looking appropriate. And
it all goes back to the confidence thing, though, too. I think if we're comfortable with what we're wearing, it gives us more confidence. And I can feel that, with you and several people that I know. It's all part of the package if you want to actually do business. I think it's important. I think it's important.
100%. Man. And it was also a large part of it, too. I skipped this part of my life. When I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I was also working at like Bloomingdale's, right? I worked for Ralph Lauren in the bedding department. And so I was selling sheet sets and I was selling sheets for Ralph Lauren. I was the Ralph Lauren specialist. That kind of got me into a little bit of fashion of how Ralph Lauren put stuff together. And I had to wear a suit every day. And so, I would go to like Goodwill and I borrowed my birth father, Andy's suits and had them tailored to fit me. And I kind of figured out how to wear a suit and how to feel good in a suit, what that looks like and all that stuff. So that helped to kind of put the package together and just add it onto it, man,
So if you're going to a listing agreement now, it's different now than it was then, but let's say it's today, Drew, not yesterday.
Sure.
What are you going to wear? Is it depending on the listing, depending on the client, or is it you're just going to be yourself no matter what?
Well, it's I'm not going to show up in, slip-on Vans and jeans and a shirt, right? I'm going to be professional because I want them to understand that I take this seriously, right? And so it depends on how I feel. What's the weather? Is it going to be sunny? Is it going to be gloomy? If it's gloomy, I tend to wear brighter colors because I want to kind of stand out and make somebody happy versus being all black. I'm never an all black type guy.
By the way, guys, sorry, I interrupt so much.
Yeah.
I'm there's a point behind these questions because this agent thing, this investor thing, this developer thing, it's a package.
Yeah.
and you've got to understand how it works. And
Yeah.
you know, this guy's a master. So listen to what he's saying. Anyway, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt.
So it just depends kind of on what I'm vibing, what
Hmm.
I'm truly feeling that day. Like, hey, do I want to wear a linen suit? Do I want to wear a
Hmm.
wool blend suit based on the weather? What colors do I want to wear? My sneakers are always white. I have a lot. Um,
What's a lot?
I probably have of white sneakers legit of a
Yeah.
specific brand that I like, but it's different ones, right? Like, I don't know. I probably have like 50 pairs of those.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have like,
Uh,
but total shoes, this is not the podcast for that. I have way too
No,
many.
it is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. No,
I
we need to know
probably,
your strengths and weaknesses. So,
yeah, I have about 150 pairs of shoes, right? So
okay,
my shoe addiction
that's awesome.
is a lot. And when I close a deal, I get a pair of shoes, right?
Okay.
Each pair of shoes that I have represents a deal. Now, obviously, I've gotten rid of deals. I've closed much more
Yeah, I
than
would
50.
imagine. Yeah.
But I always like to go in, do a listing appointment with crisp shoes.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it would be a sport coat and like a casual suit set, probably with a shirt, the thick collar T-shirt nowadays versus the
Yeah.
full blown suit yesterday.
Yeah.
Tucked in and looking sharp, right?
Yeah.
And with frames, my frames, because I have to wear these to
Hmm.
match, right? So that I was
Hmm.
coordinated and put together. If it's a really, really big listing and I know that the client, I don't know them well, I will put on a collared shirt, sometimes wear a tie, pocket square, flower up on there, just to kind of add that little extra.
No, I think it's amazing because you know, myself, I do have a suit. I do. You probably find that hard to believe, but I have a suit.
No, I've seen you. When you
And
dress up, it's great, bro.
it doesn't happen often. I mean,
I It's been
I
about a
go do
year since
talks in front of people. Yeah, yeah, no, it doesn't happen often, but I show up to these, presentations and things, and everybody's all dressed up, and it's like, yeah, what are you going to wear? It's like, I'm wearing it.
yeah.
Is it?
This is
This
me.
is pretty much what I wear. But I do like to dress up. But the problem is I got to think about it. So now I get up in the morning, and I've got shorts, I've got jeans, and I've got white t-shirts, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice.
That's it.
Yeah.
And hats, I got
Yeah.
multiple hats. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Wait,
no,
but
I love that though, because I think, like I said, this is like real estate 101. It should be,
mhm.
we go through the schooling and we learn how to be a real estate agent, but we don't really learn how to be a real estate agent. There's no way you can learn that, but this is the kind of stuff that you guys are getting right now that you could use to really improve what you do. And
Yeah.
most people won't do it though. Most
Well,
people
you got to
won't do
look
it.
the part, right? You got to
Yeah.
look the part so people take you serious, especially
Yeah.
if you're a new agent. If you're going to a listing appointment, wear a suit,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we do. There's a couple of guys in Newport Beach that'll wear sandals and t-shirts, and they can get away with it, right? They've got the reputation, but
Yeah, I
most
mean, if
people,
you
for the
closed
most
a
part,
couple
can't.
$1 billion of transactions, you're going to a repeat client, and that's who you
Yeah,
are. Sure,
yeah,
but if you're not at that level, don't take the risk of being that, because chances are that if you are competing, if you're a male,
hmm
females, I don't see any inappropriately dressed females a lot in our business, right? They kind of have that uniform of like the suit pants and
yeah.
not,
I think some of it's over the top a little bit, but
yeah.
I
I'm not.
guess it
Don't get
works.
me
It
wrong.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
don't get
know.
me wrong. There are those,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah, yeah, there are those.
whoa.
In general,
Yeah,
right? In
yeah,
our circle of friends, no.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think, yeah, if you're walking in your mail and you've got, a polo on, shorts and flip flops, right, versus a well dressed person, standing
Yeah.
next to you, who's actually put forethought into how they're going to present themselves, because
Hmm.
that's a representation. It's part of the brand of the property, right? You are in real
Right.
estate your own brand. How do you want to be perceived? Do you want to be as that casual brand, or do you want to be perceived as that brand that's like, hey, how do I get that? How do I have that stuff,
Yeah.
and
Or how do I get that guy to work for me?
yeah,
How do I get that guy to work with me? Right.
exactly.
I want what he's got.
Yeah.
Casual. I do casual all day. I want someone that's actually going to be able to do. I've got a $5 million house.
Yeah. I mean,
I
if you
want
and
$5 million of value.
and it's also the hat you're wearing, right? So you and I
Mm-hmm.
operate in a different world of investment too.
Mm-hmm.
We can dress like this as the kind of CEOs of our company when we're
Mm-hmm.
going on sites, and we can dress like this when we're going to meet with other people, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm meeting a banker, for instance, who's going to give me money, I'm dressing, and I don't, and this may be a new relationship, I'm dressing up so that he knows
Mm-hmm.
that I take it very seriously. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just in me. But as part of the brand, like make your brand shine. Make it
Mm-hmm.
something that somebody wants, right? Because that's how we
Mm-hmm.
inspire too. Is people could hear our words and not see our face. Great. Once they see our face and they see the full presentation, then you're really going to start to inspire people of like, how do I get that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
it's also
agree.
funny too because you get to a certain level, right? And I always say like, you're dressed like the guy that I work for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dressed like the guy that works for you when you're in a suit. But you get to a certain
Mm-hmm.
level, and it's like you can get away with that because you have people that work for you, right? And you're not
Mm-hmm.
working for them, but you know
Mm-hmm.
your place. So it's just kind of
Well,
fun.
I still get the occasional listing, and generally it's with someone that I've done business with, so it's okay. But I still, I do have collared shirts. I haven't given them all away, and I do have a sport coat that's less than 5 years old.
Yeah,
Uh, so I can put on the Ritz on occasion.
I believe
But
it.
the funny thing is though, it's just the casual. I mean, we're going on and on about clothes, but I think it's apropos.
It's important,
But
man.
I think the funny thing is I could be wearing a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and a pair of shoes and a flannel, but I could be wearing $1,800 worth of clothes. So it's also in the eye of the beholder too. I think a lot of times people look at things like that too. They look at labels and things like that. Not important when you're beginning. That
No,
shouldn't be the important thing when you're in the beginning. It's presentation. Look as good
no,
as you can.
no. One of
Uh,
my really good friends, John Stanland, who
mhm. I know, John. Yeah.
he wears a black shirt, a black blazer, black shoes, and a pair of blue jeans every day. Doesn't change his
Yes.
outfit. That's his uniform, right? And he is arguably probably the biggest agent out there, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
also one of the nicest men ever, and
Absolutely.
but he's always had that, right? That attitude. But he's always wearing his blazer, and he's always doing this. What people don't realize is that that blazer is a $4,000 blazer. That T-shirt's a $500 T-shirt, and those jeans are $700. You
Yeah.
know, and he's driving a $300,000 car, right?
Yeah.
So you get to a level, and you're like, damn, like it's just not, hey, go through, put it together. And people do sometimes. I mean, we're going off on a tangent, but people do care about
It's okay.
that. And the
It's
space
okay.
that he operates in, it's like everything he wears is custom, and a lot of people don't know that. And
Yeah.
it's custom made for him and his body type, which is why
Yeah.
he spends that kind of money because he can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But style has also switched. Like when we were doing the TV show, I wore a freaking suit, Gucci loafers, like every single day of filming because I felt that was what I needed to portray. Now I felt good in it; it looked great, but
Yeah.
now it's like I haven't put on those loafers since the premiere, right? Well, that's not true. I wore them the other day to a investment symposium, but um,
Mm-hmm.
it was appropriate for that because it was suit and tie.
Right.
But in general, like now it's just more casual, right? And you start to kind of get away from the brands of branding and you start to get into real simplicity, like
Mm-hmm.
you and I. White t-shirts, nice hats, glasses, but we go out and we handle our business, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world post-COVID is very casual now.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
versus
I
before.
think you can get away with it a little bit more now. But I do like the advice you gave though. Look as good as you can. I think people want to have confidence in the person that they're hiring, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have that if you don't care about the way your car looks, if you don't care about the way you look, it's a reflection on the way you do business. Someone a long time ago, Rick Jarman, it wasn't that long ago. He'd just always look at, he's a contractor like me. And he'd said, I'd always look at the guys' trucks before I'd hire them. And if they were sloppy and dirty, he goes, I wouldn't hire them.
Yep.
How do they keep their tools? It's the same thing with every business out there. It's how do you portray yourself?
Yeah. And, we go on job interviews more than anybody, I think, on the planet, right?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day. So you got to look your best. So I think we got enough here for about 3 shows, bud. I think we did.
Let's go, man. I just love you. It's awesome.
I love talking to you too. It's been a while. It's been too long since coffee.
Yeah.
So if and I'm gonna you can make this a 3-part answer, but if you were getting started in, because I think I can talk. Trust me, I can do this. I do it for a living. If you were getting started right now, because the whole thing, what you and I do is we're agents, we're investors. I don't do a lot of developing, but I've done some. If someone wants to do what we do today, if they want to get started today, let's say they just got their real estate license and they kind of like the way this sounds. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to make more money on each deal. So instead of just representing somebody, I'm going to find the deal. I'm going to go through the construction process. I'm going to list the deal, and I'm going to get a percentage. Doing things like that. How would you start today, having learned everything going through the School of Hard Knocks? What would your advice be?
Is the goal? I guess. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Before I answer the question, is the goal to get to where we are today, or is the goal, if we could start today, to go farther?
I think it's if you were going to start today, because a lot of people out there right now just need a little guidance. It's funny. People ask both of us a lot of questions, but they're really looking for you to agree with them on whatever they're doing. So I think that's a problem with people when they ask questions. And I think people need to ask better questions, and they need to listen more and quit pushing their damn agenda so much. But
that was a lesson I learned very, very quickly with clients to be successful and have longevity too, which is shut your mouth, listen. You'll find out more information by listening than you will by talking.
So
right?
True. So
I'll
be quiet.
If I were to start today, my advice to people starting today would be surround yourself with people that inspire you. Get a group of 3 individuals in what you want to do. Define what you want to do. Define who you want to become. Go out.
How do you cultivate that though? I'm going to dig deep into this. I said, this could be another episode. But how do you start that process?
It's very, very easy. So we have these tools, right, which are our phones.
Yeah.
We have platforms, and you've got LinkedIn, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, and all of them are linked. If you're doing social media, per Mark's tips, right, of how to kind of link that so that you're posting in one place and it's syndicating to all the rest. One of my greatest examples of success is a guy named Remy D'Angelo, no relation, messaged me on this, 2017. At that point, he was an 18-year-old kid in college, ahead of his time, a perennial robotic winner, a hustler, an agent, a real estate agent at 18 in 2 different states, plus a full-time college student, plus a robotics guy. And he came to me and he said, I want to learn how to do luxury real estate. Now he's in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, and he's in Florida, which is where he went to school. And he's kind of getting into it. He's a sophomore at 18, so he started early. And I fly him out here, and we because I wanted to see him face to face. And I told him, I said, do what I said. Help me with social media. As an intern, let's trade off, right? I'm not going to pay you, but you help me with social media because you're the younger generation, and I don't really have time for it. And I'll teach you. You ask questions. We'll have weekly conference calls. And so that ended up doing well. And he listened to everything I said. He's now running a team. He's now won an award after graduating college. He's making a couple $100,000 a year in real estate alone. Him and I started our digital marketing company together, so he's my partner in that. and
Mm-hmm.
he just did what I told him to do. But it started with him reaching out. So my point is
Mm-hmm.
this, is that if you're looking to get mentors, interview for them, right? But be
Mm-hmm.
prepared to listen first instead of asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get all these questions. Hey, Drew, how do you do this? What do you suggest to this? What do you suggest to that? And it was you, Mark, who said, you got to get paid for your time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your time is something. So if people are asking you those questions, there's a fee that comes along with that. But
Mm-hmm.
be prepared to, pay somebody for their time if they ask if that's really the way you want to go. But utilize what you have. Utilize your phone. Utilize your platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to people. Be willing to give free services to somebody that may need it. Like, hey,
Thank
how can
you.
I help
Thank
you?
you. Thank
Right?
you. Give. You've got
Yeah.
to give. You've got
And
to give. Yeah.
it's one of probably my all-time favorite book outside of the Bible is The Gift of Giving, right? Because it is
Okay.
all about you can't outgive, right? If you give, the universal law of giving is that you can't outgive God. The universal law of giving is that if you give, you can never receive. Excuse me, you will always receive more than you give if you have the mindset of constantly giving.
Mm-hmm.
And so surround yourself with
Mm-hmm.
people that you really want, but get 3 of them, right? So that you can get 3 different opinions. Invest in yourself, invest
Mm-hmm.
in your social media, invest in your performance, invest in seeking the answer of how you do that, right? Sharpen your axe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twice, cut once.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you have to
Mm-hmm.
start doing.
I agree. 100%. I think some so many people don't invest in themselves, and this is not a clever ploy to get people to buy courses or anything, but there's so many things that you can circumvent. A lot of the crap that, guys like Drew and I have been through, you can circumvent a lot of that crap if you're smart enough to actually learn from other people, whether it's taking a course, getting a mentor, taking a class at school, whatever the case may be. It's
Yeah.
okay to push the easy button. There's no easy button to the business, but there are ways that you can actually avoid making the same expensive mistakes that guys like us have made.
Yeah.
I've lost millions of dollars. I've made
Yep.
millions, but I've lost millions.
Yep.
So do you want to avoid that? Listen to people like us and take it to heart and write it down and know it and don't do it. Don't make those same
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah. And it's also, don't, if you're, I'm just going to say it, if you're 21 years old to 28 years old, don't go and follow a guy who's got a million YouTubers, who's 26 years old and claims to know it all about real estate. He doesn't.
Mm,
He doesn't.
mm,
There are these false quote unquote prophets, false gurus out there that don't know anything.
mm.
And
Yep.
if that person sat in a room with Mark and I, and this isn't naming anybody, but I see it so much. It's like, buy my course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that
Mm-hmm.
you don't really need to buy a course to learn. It's something that you can
No.
have a conversation with a mentor over a cup of coffee and learn how that is actually implemented. Education isn't education unless it's applied, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, with these guys that are claiming to do this, they don't have the success. They haven't gone through the wars. Mark and I would tear these guys apart if we were in a
Mm-hmm.
room and they were asking us questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's don't follow that. Seek somebody that has experience first.
It's so hard to find, though. I think I know that you and I can see through the BS. We've been around a long time.
Yeah.
But I think for young people, it's really difficult. And because what they want to see is in front of them, that's what they're going to follow. And but we'll keep preaching that, though, that make sure that whoever you're listening to is actually the real thing. That's so difficult for young people, though. And there will be lessons learned. They will be expensive, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's, trying to help you guys, the audience, avoid that is,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody's full of it, right? There are some guys that know it, but there's limited
Great.
knowledge. There's only so much experience that a 28-year-old can teach you versus a guy like me who's 44, who has been in the business as long as that person's almost been alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you always want to seek somebody within an age bracket, that
Mm-hmm.
has that experience or has gone through things that you've gone through, whether it be, spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever it is. Seek somebody that has more experience than that, is my best bet, because my stepdad being a great mentor to me, You being a guy I could always call and help with and answer questions.
Vice versa.
I've
Yeah.
got, the only guy that's younger than me is Kev, right? Who's in my circle. Um,
Yeah.
and then I've got, like John Stanlin, and I've got, so many people that I could name. My group is really great with who I have kind of in my inner circle of guys that, I look up to, and guys that I can talk to, and guys that I can, pull information from, and they can pull information from me, and we can share these ideas. And they've been there and they've done that,
And the funny thing is it evolved, right?
Yeah.
You didn't start off knowing those guys.
No.
It evolved over time,
But I'll tell you this, I can say that reaching out via Instagram and all of that works, right? Part of the consistency. So go back to 2014. Instagram obviously was there. I used it more as a messaging app than anything else because I didn't really know what Instagram did and was and blah, blah, blah. I reached out to the top agents in the area and I said, listen, I'm following your career. You're doing a wonderful job. Do you have time for coffee? They're like, sure, absolutely. And
wow.
We had coffee, right?
That's awesome.
I continued to reach out to him. But I was grateful for the opportunity because I would always, if somebody gives you advice, right? I've got a guy now who's one of the largest developers in the world named David. And he pours into us, right? My partner and I. And he's 58, 59 years old.
My age. Younger.
He's built probably, and I'm not exaggerating, $1 trillion worth of commercial residential development. I mean, he is a behemoth in the industry. And I happened to sell the guy a home, right? And he loved it so much, and he loved the experience that he got from me. But he pours into my life as a mentor. And what he really likes to see is if I'm telling you to do something to help you, do it. Right? The action item. And I'm reporting back to him like, hey, this is what I'm doing. So the lesson here is that as I reached out to these guys and they were giving me advice in my business, they would see the success because I was doing exactly what they told me to do or avoiding what they told me to avoid and then thanking them for it and showing gratitude. And that really helped in my career. And I mean, literally it was like 4 or 5 top agents in the Newport Beach area and because of that, we've now become friends because they've seen my career kind of evolve as their career skyrockets.
Is it kind of a joke when people say, I want to be a high-end coastal, agent? Everybody says that same thing. And how possible is that to become now? I mean, especially, this is for those of you that are watching far in the future here. This is June of 2023, and we just hit a record of the least amount of listings in the United States that we've ever had.
Yeah.
And we've got 60,000 agents that have left the business in the last 6 months. There's a lot of attrition going on in a lot of different directions. How do you navigate a market like that? Because you seem to be busy as heck. I mean, you've got projects going on. I know you've got deals closing. Some have, some don't. How do you explain that? Because there's not that much to go around right now.
So, is it possible? I have a saying in my home with my children. I have 4 children, and that is, impossible is a bad word to us. It's literally like a cuss word. So I can't, in good conscience, come on here and say, it's impossible. It's not. Is it difficult? Absolutely. And this is where getting with local area experts and having a discussion and understanding that you're not their competition. You may aspire to be their competition, but you're not right now. And asking them for advice, seeking the advice of others. And a lot of the guys, and I've been guilty of this too in casual conversations of like, hey, what do I do? Well, it's pick a farm that inspires you and mail the farm and get on the phone and do Mojo and do this. That's not going to work, right? The best thing, even though the president of the DRE begrudgingly, to my chagrin, changed the rule, is host an open house. Get inspired of an area, call an agent. If you're within the same brokerage, now you have to be and host an open house in that specific area, right? If you're in the $350,000 to $400,000 price range or maybe less, get an agent that's in that area and offer to host an open house. Get treats,
Mm-hmm.
present yourself well, act as if that's your
Mm-hmm.
listing. Get engaged with the people that are of that caliber that are looking at that home. Get an idea of that conversation, but be consistent with that. That's the best way to do it. In my opinion, if you're going to try to break into a new marketplace that is above where your current place is, do work. You know, the door knocking, coastal Orange County, 43 gates in Newport Coast. You're not getting behind the gate. You're not door knocking Newport Coast.
Yeah.
You know, Corona Del Mar, sure, you could do.
Well, there's a city ordinance against it. You could, but yeah. Yeah, open houses are an amazing source, and people don't realize it, and it's free. I did one probably 3 years ago, and I met a couple, and we hit it off. We sat and talked for like a couple of hours. It was not a very busy open house, and since then, I've done 3 multi-million-dollar deals with them. And we're friends. We've traveled together. It's a whole thing. But just off of that one open house I did that I wasn't going to do, someone called me and said, "Look, I'm in a bind," and I went, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." And that was it. I put on a collared shirt that day.
Nice.
I did. Yeah.
Money, Mark.
I know. I made it. I was looking like money that day. But it just goes to show you the advice that Drew gave you just now. It's so easy to do open houses. It's not difficult. A, show up. B, look good. C, do not be afraid to ask for people's names and phone numbers. Tell me, is that like the biggest faux pas that agents make is they do the open house and they go home and it's like, wow, that was great.
That's the biggest faux pas. And I'm going to teach you guys something that is really, really important.
Yes.
From years of
golden nugget. Love it.
And that's this. When you are asking a client for a phone number at an open house and you are doing this, it's not, hey, can I get your number? I'd like to send you the MLS listings and put you on a drip campaign. And I'd like to do this. Right. And even though that may be your goal, just zip it. What you say to them is you stay in the flow of life. Ask about their family. Ask about their lifestyle. Ask about their occupation. Ask about their wishes and dreams. And then say, look, I really am inspired by our conversation here. What I'd really like to do is give you maximum value and see how I can help you in any way, shape, or form. No strings attached. I just want to be able to communicate with you if an opportunity comes. How does that sound? Nobody's going to say no.
I agree. That's well said.
You've broken down the barriers of everything: family, lifestyle, occupation, wishes, and dreams. So now you have 5 data points to talk to them about when you are communicating with them, so that you are not communicating with them about business. Relationship first, always. Care about your clients. They'll care about you. They'll learn you. They'll like you. They'll trust you. They'll transact with you. That's it.
Dude, we got to do this again because I think we're just actually at the tip of the iceberg. And Justin's nodding his head over there. We've already got 3 shows.
Sorry, Justin.
No, he's fine. He's fine. He's smiling now. He's got a nice smile. Justin, you have a nice smile. And a nice T-shirt too. No, I think if people can actually listen to this and take notes, I think we've given them the recipe for success if they are so willing to follow it. I think today was a phenomenal, and I hope people take it seriously, dude. Thank you so much for being here, man. I really do want to do this again because I think another 2 hours would be easy to do. I mean, it's like sitting down and having coffee. I
could talk to you forever, man. Literally, like it's awesome seeing you. I'm honored to even have been thought of. When I saw the email, I was like, really? Okay, cool. Let's go. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
More than you know. I appreciate that. If anybody wants to find you, obviously, what's the best way to do it? We're going to put that in the show notes so that they can read it. But
best way to do it, honestly, is just Google my name, Drew D'Angelo, my number, everything pops up on the SEO from Good Optimization. And you can reach me. All my handles are there, my phone number, all that kind of stuff.
Do you want us to put your phone number in the show notes or just your Instagram?
No,
just
let's
Instagram.
have them do a little bit of work. Let's have them do some research.
Oh, you're going to make them work at it. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. Well, Dude, I'm so happy you were here today. This has just made my day. I had a
Thank
good
you, brother.
time. Justin's nodding over there. He'll tap the computer whenever he hears something good that he wants to, maybe extract, and we'll send it to you too, so you can post it if you want to.
Let's go.
But he was tapping. He was tapping a lot, so that's cool.
Sick. Let's go.
That's cool.
I hope I made
Yeah.
everybody happy.
You did. You did. So we'll do it again. Outro's easy here. Just say goodbye, man.
All right. Thank you very much. Love and appreciation. Take care, brother.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Thanks, Drew. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Appreciate you being here. If you guys are interested in anything we do down in the show notes, we've got all kinds of stuff down there for you to look at. And really, truly, Drew, thank you for being here. This was super fun. I enjoyed it. So anyway, guys, I'll see you next time.